Explosive documents obtained under Freedom of Information by the ABC have tonight lifted a lid on a decades-old culture of sexual and physical abuse in the Defence Force. A report prepared for the Defence Department and obtained by the 730 program suggests recruits aged as young as 13 were subjected to routine abuse going back to the 1950s. It says senior officers carried out the abuse with impunity while victims' lives were destroyed. Political correspondent Tom Eagleton reports from Canberra.
The Defence Force was already reeling from scrutiny of sexual abuse in its ranks following last year's Skype scandal. 60 years' worth of sickening new revelations show those allegations are just the tip of the iceberg. A report prepared for the government but hidden until now from the public says it was standard practice in the 1950s for the Navy to recruit boys as young as 13. 15-year-olds were taken as recruits by all services right into the 1980s. Legal investigators say in the report's executive summary that they're certain many were subjected to serious sexual and physical assault and other serious abuse while they were in the ADF from the 1950s through to the 1970s and possibly into the 1980s.
He took me back to his room, made me take off my clothes and then penetrated me.
One former Air Force recruit's come forward to tell his story publicly.
I was raped by a 50-year-old corporal. He also raped and sexually abused other minors in the Air Force at the time.
Others say there's widespread knowledge of horrifying stories like that within the ADF.
I know one girl who was raped, and she told her CO about it, and he just said, well, that's basically the way it goes, Dales. And she's worn that ever since and turned to alcohol and all the rest of it.
Past 25 years, basically I've been in institutions, in out of hospitals, psychiatric wards. Hard to trust people, relationships, never been married. Really haven't had a job in 25 years.
While some victims' lives were destroyed, the report says others went on to themselves become perpetrators. It speculates many of them, plus others who witnessed the abuse, could still be serving in Defence's upper echelons. The report describes a culture where victims are discouraged from reporting, perpetrators face no adverse consequences, and a chain of command structure in Defence which lends itself to superiors abusing juniors with impunity. The Defence Ministers again raised the possibility of a royal commission into the hundreds of abuse claims against the Defence Force.
I'm not talking it up, but that may be the most effective way of dealing with these matters.
As Defence grapples with the latest questions about its culture, the moral spotlight's also being cast on politics in general. The ABC's learnt of a so-called dirt unit operating out of the Prime Minister's office, which distributed a to-do list on how to dig for information about opposition MPs' travel, financial interests, legal background and, quote, younger days. The document was distributed by Nick Rees, Julia Gillard's Director of Strategy, who's now leaving for another job. The Prime Minister's not denying the report and says research on political opponents can be a good thing.
I haven't seen that document, but I am talking more broadly about transparency and scrutiny in politics.
But in opposition, Julia Gillard railed against dirt files.
Let's look at the offering of a dirt file on me by someone in a ministerial suite in the Howard government. Well, if you want to have this debate, explain those things, Prime Minister John Howard.
Tony Abbott famously gathered $100,000 for a legal campaign to bring down Pauline Hanson's political career.
It was all my own work, and like the PM, I was shocked at the sentence she got.
But he's rejecting comparisons with the report about Julia Gillard's dirt unit.
That's absolutely not correct. There is no suggestion whatsoever that anyone other than Julia Gillard's office has been sending out explicit instructions to ministers' offices on how to dig dirt on their opposite numbers.
Senior ministers are distancing themselves from the report.
I don't think it's appropriate to use anyone to compile dirt files. I think, you know, what politics has got to get above that. Politics has got to be about causes, issues. It's got to be about good policy, not dirt.
But as the retiring former Greens leader Bob Brown noted in his last visit to Parliament House as a senator, dirt files have been around for as long as modern politics.
I know Eric Abetz has got one this big on me.
A good note to go out on. Tom Eagleton, late.